Hello, my name is Ashley Douthard, and I'm the Community Engagement Specialist with Inspiritus for the Birmingham, Alabama area. I welcome you to this PowerPoint that shares a little bit about the history of Inspiritus as well as how you can get involved by volunteering. Let's start with our first slide. Our first slide tells a little bit about our mission of Inspiritus and how we help our clients from surviving to thriving. Inspiritus guides individuals and families on a path, like I said, from surviving to thriving. We empower those whose lives have been disrupted to discover their strengths and resilience, accompanying them as they grow into vibrant contributors to their community. We help them with their basic needs at first. We help them get settled. And then we also help them to become more self sufficient so they can thrive in their own community or wherever they are living at that time. A little bit about the history of Inspiritus. Lutheran Services of Georgia guides people on a path, like I said, from surviving to thriving. It was founded in 1981. Inspiritus Refugee and Immigration Services resettles refugees in the Atlanta and Savannah, Alabama, Birmingham, and Nashville areas. Inspiritus was one of two pilot sites. Also, Lutheran Services of Minnesota for the LIRS Circle of Welcome Initiative, a national rollout of the COW initiative began in the fall of 2017. Inspiritus accompanies children, adults, and families along the path, like I said, from surviving to thriving. We like that saying. By focusing on these four steps along the way: basic needs, stability and safety, community integration, and self sufficiency. We engage the community to help fulfill our mission by guiding and empowering our individuals by volunteering and helping them along the way. All right, let's move on to our next slide. All right, these are some of the programs that Inspiritus has. The Refugee and Immigration Services, Children and Family Services, Disability Services, and Disaster Relief or Response. I'll let you take a moment to read some of those. All right, we're going to go on to our next slide. And these are the facts about the refugee crisis, okay? So this is kind of more like what we're doing when, we're volunteering. Obviously, there's other areas of Inspiritus, such as the Children and Family Services, the disaster relief and disability. But in the Birmingham area, we solely are helping those with the refugees and those asylum seekers. So that's what we're going to be focusing on for mostly the remaining of this PowerPoint. All right. There are roughly 27.1 million refugees in the world, and about half of them are children. Between 2018 and 2020, 1 million children were born as refugees. 83% of refugees are hosted in low and middle income countries, excuse me, which often do not have the infrastructure to support them, unfortunately. In 2021, close to half of all the refugee children, 48%, remain out of school. And refugees may spend years and even decades living in camps, and it's common to have an entire generation growing up in those refugee camps, unfortunately. All right. So we're going to talk about how do refugees even get to Birmingham? How do they go from these countries to, secondary countries to the United States, and then obviously to where we are in Birmingham? So if you look at this slide, it's going to tell a little bit about how they go. About how they get referred. And I'm losing my voice apparently on this PowerPoint, so I apologize. But we're going to talk about a little bit about how they get referred, to the UNHCR refers a refugee to be considered to a resettlement in the U.S. and provides the below background information. and then they're going to move on to the U.S. government, and then we're going to move on to the state departments, and then the state departments will help resettle those refugees in different areas, and Birmingham being one of those. All right, we're going to move on to the next slide. All right, so this is the facts about the U.S. refugee vetting process. Okay, so refugees are the most thoroughly screened and vetted population to travel to the United States. It takes, on average, 2 years for a refugee to get through the rigorous United States vetting process. 8 federal agencies are involved in this process. So it's not that they just sign up and they're able to come up. I mean, they are vetted. They are, made sure that they, boxes are checked, and then they are able to come over. So it's a very lengthy and tedious process. All right. So this is pre-arrival through the first 24 hours. They're going to be set up, with an apartment, furniture donations. We're going to help them with picking them up at the airport, providing a hot meal, safety orientation, and then a 24-hour visit. Suitable apartments, we wanted them to be affordable, safe, and also we try to look for them to be in other areas of the community that's their background, their ethnic background, so they can have that, sense of community. All right. So the first 30 days, service plan is initiated, individual family needs, physical health, mental health, housing extras, and then just any extras that are needed. We also do a lot of cultural orientation, food stamps, Medicaid, RCA, and Social Security cards, just all of those things that, that sometimes we take for granted that, we've had or always had or excuse me, are easily, gotten for us. These are the things that we're going to be working really hard to help get those things for our clients. Also, lease, utilities, clothing, public transport, health screening, job enrollment, or excuse me, job orientation, school enrollment for children, and we help them to budget. All right, so the first 6 to 8 months, this is where we're going to try to help them with employment and help them to become economically self-sufficient. Cultural adjustment, connect refugees to other community resources and new neighbors. All right, there's also a one-time grant. It's a resettlement grant or a 90-day grant that's often around $900 to maybe $1,100 per person. A family of 5 can get about $5,000. So as you can see, it's not a whole lot of money. So things like, bedding and, utensils, cooking, and things like that, are things that we're going to have to help them get donated. So, it's not really covering a lot of the things that we take for granted sometimes. Soap, shampoo, just little things like that. It's going to add up, especially, if a family of 5 or more, and they're only getting $5,000. So, like I said, the grant is going to cover beds, apartment, and rent, and we all know that's kind of hefty. Water bill, excuse me, it says Georgia Power, but we're going to talk about Alabama Power, food allowance, and household items. All right, so volunteer. This is where we're going to get into our volunteers. You can volunteer as an individual or with a small group. This is why we need volunteers right here, or back to the slide before. Things, just helping them to feel, I guess, surrounded by individuals that really, that want them here, that are wanting them to be successful, that are wanting them to be self-sufficient, and also the volunteers for donations. That's a big thing, and not necessarily monetary donations, which that's obviously something that is needed, but just anything from bedding to a bed to a table and chairs or a sofa, utensils, things like that. This is why we need the volunteers, and we need volunteers as a individual or with a small group, and then we also have corporate sponsors, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But the volunteer as an individual or a small group. Um, so this is like to help them, when they first come here, help them setting up their apartment, kind of greeting them, helping them to feel welcomed. And that's a big deal. Collecting furnishings, kitchen and household items, hygiene, cleaning products, providing transportation, to and from like appointments when they first come, because there's going to be several appointments that they're going to need to attend. And obviously, they're not going to have transportation at that time. Um, and then also mentoring them, just helping them to learn English as a second language, career development, getting the kiddos enrolled in school, tutoring, and then cultural orientation. So those are some big things. From a co-sponsorship team, a co-sponsorship is a special relationship between a local resettlement agency and a community group. So co-sponsors walk alongside and support a refugee family during their first 6 months in the U.S. and serve as a community guide and a friend. So this is like, you have like the one-time volunteers or like the small groups, or, like you just kind of want to pop in as needed or when you're available. A co-sponsorship necessarily is going to be where you're kind of tagging in with them and you're going to kind of help them along the way for at least like 6 months or so. Just really be there for them to support them. The type of volunteer commitment is going to be incredibly important to the work, that this brings. Co-sponsors bring an essential level of commitment, continuity, and core for the care. Excuse me, I'm completely messing that up. And care for the refugees they serve, and significantly multiple and extended the services refugees receive. Although co-sponsorship is a serious commitment, it can be very meaningful. So this is something that you're going to have a stronger relationship with them, as opposed to maybe just popping in and popping out as needed. This is where you're going to be kind of really walking hand in hand along the way. All right. Co-sponsorship requirements. They must sign a commitment form with Inspiritus. They must commit to serve for 6 months. They must commit to $3,000 to be used as Inspiritus sees fit. All team members must attend a co-sponsorship training and complete a background check and provide at least 8 core services. Pre-arrival core services that the co-sponsors may provide: home setup, furnishing and supplies, seasonal clothing, stocking the pantry, and a welcome meal. We obviously want them to be culturally appropriate as well. All right, post-arrival core services that the co-sponsors may provide is like airport pickup, 24-hour visit, helping with English as a second language enrollment, selective, services registration, a second home visit, cultural orientation, transportation to job interviews and job training, and just, helping with housing and other things like that. As you can see, there's a list right here. So this is like the other services like post-arrival, after the refugees have arrived in the Birmingham area. Additional services that the co-sponsors may provide are rental assistance, community guide, grocery store, helping them with orientation, general health orientation, help the family set up a bank account, financial education, English as a second language or tutoring, job development, continued transportation, and then just helping them get orientated to the public transportation system. All right. So volunteers, here's what volunteers agree to the following. I'm just going to kind of hit some of the high points, and you guys can look over the list. Let's see, to support goal and self-sufficiency. We don't want to, to not take pictures or post pictures online. That's obviously, excuse me, I can't even think of the word, confidentiality issue there. Um, and to participate in measuring the impact of the program through regular check-ins with the program coordinator to complete volunteer activity logs. And that's something that you'll get in your training as well. All right, ideal characteristics of that co-sponsor: already organized and have interest in a long-term commitment, has the capacity to fundraise and hit specific monetary goals or targets, and has the bandwidth to be a regular and consistent presence in the refugee family's life. All right, donating items. This is a big deal, okay? Strollers, microwaves, washers and dryers, bikes, winter clothing. Also, I mentioned before utensils, sofas, coats. Well, I said that winter clothing. Tables, chairs, bedding, anything like that. Anything. Think about it as you're coming into a country and you have nothing pretty much. So they need all the assistance that they can receive. So that's obviously a really big reason why we need these donations, and we need these sponsors and these volunteers. All right, so developing cultural competence and sensitivity. All right, so explaining U.S. culture. You know, ex- we want to talk about equality, independence, individualism, success and hard work, truth and honesty, time, self-focus, privacy, personal hygiene, and informality. So we want to kind of express and explain our culture a little bit as well, because they are mixing their culture with ours in a very respectful way. We want to do that. All right, as volunteers, what are some important things to keep in mind? We want to set appropriate boundaries, be tolerant of, and be firm with unrealistic demands. It's okay to say no sometimes. Financial involvement, the goal is self-sufficiency. We don't want to continue financially supporting our clients. We want them to be able to support themselves, and that's what they want to. So that's going to be a goal there. So don't give money directly to the clients, only give it through us, and then we'll just distribute it when and as needed, of course. Public transit versus driving clients. We want to teach a person to fish. We don't want to do it for them. So of course, at first, when they first are resettled here, we want to be able to help them to get to those appointments and to get to those different things that they need to. But then we want to start showing them a little bit about how to do it themselves, and they want to learn too. So that's a big one, is we want to not continuously do it for them, but to teach them how to do it. And excuse my voice, apparently talk, talking a lot is not agreeing with me right now, so I apologize. And then rumors. There's two sides to every story. So they can say one thing and and tell us something. We want to hear from you as well. We want to get both sides of the story if there's an issue, so we can work it out together and come to a resolvement. All right. Like I said, we want to avoid dependencies, unhealthy reliance on others for support or assistance. We want them to be self-sufficient. That's the goal. Tips for effective collaboration. All right. Utilize the team approach. We want to be an advocate, and we want to encourage refugees to talk to their case managers. So we all want to work together as a team. Continued tips for collaboration: stick to the schedule you determined with the client. Be ready to separate from clients when they feel self-sufficient. It can be hard because we do get attached. But we want them to be healthy, and we want them to be able to live, to live their lives on their own. Obviously, to check in on them and to be a friend, a continued friend is very much welcomed, but we don't want to continue doing for them. We want them to do for themselves. And then document volunteer hours. This is a big deal because, the saying, if it's not written down, it's not done. And we want to know that it's done. We want to see your hard work. you know, you can say, well, I've done this and this, and that's great, but we want to see it on paper too. We have to track it, and we want to see your hard work. We also want to see like the mileage, and we want to, because we do have a reimbursement for mileage, and we want to pay you for your time, of course. And then the donations monthly for Inspiritus. We need to track all these things. So that will be, if you work, and help us with that, that will be great. All right. Communication. We want to respect language and culture of the refugees. Pay attention to meanings and gestures, especially with male and female, elder and peer etiquette. Become aware of your own cultural assumptions about eye contact and touching others. Speak clearly and correctly. Um, Possibly not a horse like myself. Pause slightly between words. Speak in full, simple, short sentences, and repeat and reward. Language barrier. Be sensitive about using children to interpret, be patient, and be creative. Sometimes, like drawing pictures or use the use of the Oxford Picture Dictionary, digital services like Google Translate, are big, big helpers. The reason, though, let's go back. The reason we don't want to use children to interpret so much is it can be really easy to utilize the children, but remember that topics you discuss in front of children, sometimes they don't need to know, like medical conversation or financial things. Kiddos sometimes don't need to know about those things. So just remember to be a little sensitive about that. And then, like I said, about that, being patient, give time for response, have tablet available for writing down words. The platinum rule. Culture. Value and seek understanding of refugees' culture, dress, sensitivity to cultural differences, religion, no, you know, no we don't want to proselytize. We don't want to um, put our religion onto them, if that makes sense. We want them, I mean, they have their own religions. Now, if they have the same religion as you, of course, discuss, bond over that, but we don't want to, put or push our beliefs or our, our religious beliefs onto them. Refugee situation, avoid asking about refugee story. If offered, handled with utmost care. They'll share if they want to share. And then obviously be a very sensitive listener. All right, confidentiality, which I mentioned before, but we want this shared. What would you want shared about your own family? Think about it like that. You don't want medical things or names, date of birth. We don't want financial conversations to be shared. We don't want that. So obviously they don't want that either. So remember, very, very much so, confidentiality is very important. Um, there's also a volunteer confidentiality statement, and you'll have to sign something as well when you sign up. So always ask to share when in doubt, alter name or country or origin, and then obviously we'll remember the HIPAA laws. All right, self-care for volunteers. All right, self-care. We want to take care of yourself is a very important part of being able to continue helping others. You have to pour into yourself to pour into other people. So setting boundaries, realistic expectations, and preventing burnout are very big things you want to remember, because you can't help somebody else if you're drained yourself. So we want to you guys to take care of yourselves. We take care of ourselves, and then we're able to pour into those that we help. Learning about other cultures through cultural orientation resources. There's some different websites and things that you can look up and to help you to become maybe more sensitive through like to other cultures and background. So there's some information right here if you want to, read over that and log into some of those websites. That'll be very helpful. So the next steps for volunteering, registering on Better Impact, donating for the background check. I believe right now it's at $35. $35 to $40 is the background check, and it's a donation that you will provide for us to send in your information for you guys to be the vetted process to have a background check. Attend a volunteer training, and that's virtually, and enter volunteer hours, like I said, in Better Impact, because we want to see all the hard work you guys are doing. We know that you're doing hard work. We know that you're out there helping our clients, and we want to see that. For a co-sponsorship, form a team, have all team members who will interact with clients donate for the background check, have all team members attend the training, and have all team members sign the commitment form. And then for donating, there's some links right here. And then you can reach out to me at ashley.douthard@weinspirit.org for any information. All right, this is the screening orientation. This tells a little bit more about, the background check, what to do, about going into Better Impact. This is the link for Better Impact. The donation, it is the here, $35, and also then where you go to do your back to pay the eTapestry website for your background check, and then for the training. So these are some links. I don't believe you can click on them, but you can possibly highlight them and then paste into your browser. All right, questions. Any questions that anybody has, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You can, like I said, email me, ashley.douthard@weinspirit.org. I will be happy to answer any questions. You can, I can email you back. I can send you my telephone number. We can chat. We can text. Hopefully, I won't be hoarse when I talk. And but any questions you guys have, please feel free to reach out to me. I will be happy to answer them. Just know that we do need the volunteers. We do need the help. And this is a ministry. This is a mission. This is something that you can look at as, you're giving back, you're helping others. And, the whole saying, it does make you feel better to help other people. So just, consider it. And like I said, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And this is the end of the PowerPoint. And I'm so happy that you guys stuck around and listened to me, even though I sound like a bullfrog right now. But I'm so grateful that you guys were joining in and listening to this. And I hope to chat with you or receive some emails soon. All right. Thanks, and have a great day or night. All right. Bye-bye.